Hi, this is Joann at Natural Healing Center. Welcome to our Thursday Facebook Live. Tonight I'm going to be talking to you about what nutrition response testing is and how it works. So if you are an existing client and you're wondering what is actually happening when we're doing the testing in the office, this will give you kind of the rundown on what we're doing and how it works. And I appreciate, everyone who is open and wanting to learn about how this practice works. It's really amazing. Or if you are new to it completely, this will give you some information on what nutrition response testing can help with, and again, how it works. So nutrition response testing, in short, it is a method that we use here at Natural Healing Center to help clients feel better. And what it is, it's a non-invasive system that identifies areas of stress in the body as well as the underlying root cause of those areas of stress or patient symptoms. So you can think of symptoms as, what physically manifests in the body. So it might be headaches, it might be stomach aches, bloating, acne. It could be a rash. It could be hot flashes, hair thinning, low libido. Those are all very common symptoms that we see here. So we take your considerations into, we take all of your symptoms into consideration, but our approach isn't necessarily to chase your symptoms. It's to figure out why those symptoms are happening in the first place. So for us, symptoms are an indication. Hi, Matt. Thanks for joining. Your symptoms, or anyone's symptoms, are an indication that there's some type of imbalance going on in the body that is causing those symptoms to happen. So again, we are really looking at the root cause of why those symptoms are happening. And when we can identify those deficiencies and imbalances and work to correct them through natural nutritional means, then the body is in the best place to be able to heal and repair itself and attain a more optimum state of health. Hi, Jade. Thanks for tuning in. So who can nutrition response testing help? Literally everyone. We see clients of all different genders and ages. So we see men, women, children, babies. We even see pets, mostly dogs and cats, because they have a very similar anatomy of our own. Hi, Lorna. Thanks for tuning in. And again, we have clients coming to us with all sorts of conditions, issues. Maybe they're also just trying to better their health as well. Athletes who are trying to up their performance, but a bulk of the work that we do is digestive issues. So again, bloating, constipation, diarrhea, acid reflux, upset stomach. We also see a lot of hormone imbalance symptoms, hot flashes, fatigue, low libido, hair loss, mood, irritability, mood conditions, so anxiety, depression, skin issues, eczema, acne, and then general pain, whether that's from an injury or some type of trauma. So nutrition response testing, again, we take all your symptoms into consideration, but we always follow the same type of methodology for each client, and so that way we know that we're consistent and accurate with our results. So let's talk a little bit about what we test for. So the first thing we do with clients is we want to make sure that the nervous system is responding the way that we would expect it to. So with nutrition response testing, what we're testing is actually the autonomic nervous system, which you might be aware has two parts. So the first part, you could think of it as like the sympathetic part of your nervous system, which is like your gas pedal, and that's going to put you into fight or flight mode. And then on the second hand, or the opposite side, is the parasympathetic nervous system, which is essentially your brake pedal. It puts you into rest and digest. And so what your nervous system is doing is it's regulating between the two. It's basically saying like, okay, it's time to apply the brakes, or it's time to gas. So say you're waking up in the morning, essentially you want your sympathetic part of your nervous system to be more dominant, so you're gassing, right? Whereas when you go to lay down and go to bed, then you want your parasympathetic nervous system to kick in and you want to be braking. Sometimes what can happen is if the nervous system isn't responding appropriately, what can happen is either maybe like one pedal is stuck so that you're like constantly in fight or flight, or you're constantly in rest and digest, so that either maybe looks like you're wired and revved up all the time, right? Or the opposite might be true, is when you're just like fatigued all day, don't have any energy, no motivation, right? Another thing that can happen with the nervous system is what we call a confusion. So when you are intending to gas, let's say you're actually braking, or the other way around. So let's say you wake up in the morning and you're like dead tired because the parasympathetic part of your nervous system is more dominant, right? Or the opposite is true. You lie down to go to bed and you're like wide awake and can't sleep because you're revved up from the sympathetic part of your nervous system being more dominant. So we always want to check to make sure the nervous system is online. That's typically what needs to be handled first. In the case that the nervous system isn't responding appropriately, it's typically because there's some kind of stress that's going on in the body that's having it act that way. So another thing that we do as part of the testing is we check for the 5 most common stressors. So there are more than that, but that's typically what we start with. So the first one that we look at is foods, so food sensitivities. And when you have foods your body is sensitive to, 2 things. So one, when you have those foods, it can cause a swelling and inflammation. It's really hard for the body to be able to heal itself when you have that inflammation going on. Another thing is you're essentially, when you have those foods, it's like adding stress to the body, right? So imagine too, if you have like those foods chronically, like every day, then it's in like a chronic state of stress and inflammation. But the good news is that when you can identify what foods those are and work to reduce or avoid them, then inflammation goes down and also the stress goes down too. And when that happens, then you have more energy available to do what you need to do every day. So essentially, you're having those foods, your body's using up energy to handle that stress. When that stress isn't present, then you have more available. So we use these really cool test kits. So I'll show you one side of it. This is what like the foods would look like. So we test for the most common food sensitivities, and we have a lot more vials beyond this, but this is what we look at first. So some common food sensitivities would be like wheat, oats, corn, soy, other grains, including rice. We have different types of sugars, fruit sugar, honey, white refined sugar, brown sugar, different kinds of dairies, so cheese, milks, eggs, like egg yolks, egg whites, that type of thing. We also, another ones that we typically test for are caffeine, nightshades. And so how this works is each of these vials, they have a certain name on it. So this, for example, says, let's say like raw milk right here. It has the same energetic blueprint as raw milk, and like all different types of raw milk. So I'm going to get into how it works in practice, but basically we're going to see how your body or your autonomic nervous system responds to what's in the vials, and your body is going to either respond positively or negatively to it. Okay. On the other side of this test kit are immune challenges. So immune challenges, we all have bugs, like we have bacteria, we have viruses, we have yeast, parasites, and it's just a matter of keeping things like in check and balanced. So you're going to see on here, we're going to test for different categories of bacteria, viruses, GMOs, yeast, and parasites. Okay, and then other stressors that we look at are metal and chemical toxicity. So we have that in this test kit here. Common metals that people will test for are aluminum, especially in like deodorant, foil, pots and pans, that type of thing. Mercury is another one. If you've had like dental fillings, that one comes up regularly, in addition to copper and silver and nickel. You know, it's not uncommon at all for people to test for metals and chemicals, given like our foods, our environment, air, water, that type of thing. So when it comes to chemicals, common ones that show up are chlorines. So you want to make sure that you're using a good quality water filter in your shower and in your sink water, and that you're changing the filter regularly. Another common one is formaldehyde. So formaldehyde is like coating in new like furnishings. So if you just got like, you know, painted your house, or you bought new furniture, or you got new textiles like drapes, put in new flooring, you have that like new car smell, that's all formaldehyde. So that can cause imbalances and stress in the body. Other chemicals, plastic. So use glass containers when you're storing your food. Be mindful not to heat in plastic. Another one, pesticides. Foods also, you know, especially with pets and dogs, we see pesticides come up from just like walking around the neighborhood. Even if like you aren't using pesticides in your yard, but if you're walking around, you can get exposed to it that way. Another one I'll point out too is like perfumes and fragrances. So go for unscented in your home and personal care products. A lot of commercial products with fragrances, they have chemicals that will make their scents last longer, and they can cause like a lot of disruption in like brain function, and also like hormonal like disruption. Okay, another thing that we test for, the fifth stressor, would be scars. So scars can be tattoos, stitches, stretch marks, surgical incisions, burns, cuts, injuries to the skin. You can think of like 80% or more of your nerves end in your skin. So when there's damage to the skin, there's essentially damage to those nerve endings. And in short, what scars can do is they can block the flow of energy through the body. So in Chinese medicine, there are what are called meridians, and it's how energy flows through the body. So basically, you can think of our energy as like electrical, and so if electrical energy is flowing through the body, it's following this circuit, right? And there's, I think, 13, if I'm not mistaken, different circuits. And so if you have a scar on that circuit, it's essentially causing like a break in it. And when that happens, there's less circulation. So we have certain supplements that help to clear up that blockage. So now you have better circulation and more energy able to like do the things you need to do every day to heal your body, to bring it back into balance. So it may be the case that there might be one stressor or multiple, and with those stressors on the body, whether they're metals, chemicals, food sensitivities, whatever, they act as barriers to healing. So they need to be addressed first and foremost, along with the nervous system, in order to clear up the barriers and get you in like the most optimal position to be able to heal your body and bring it back into balance. So in addition to checking the nervous system and also checking for the different types of common stressors, another way we use nutrition response testing is to test the actual organs of the body. So we scan from, your head all the way down to the bottom of your core, and it's going to be different parts of your brain. It's going to be different organs of the endocrine system, so like your glands, like your hypothalamus, your pituitary, your adrenals. We're also going to check the digestive system really well, because we want to make sure that you're able to break down your foods and absorb your nutrients. So we're going to look at the stomach, the liver, the large intestines, the small intestines, and then all the other vital organs like your heart, your skin, your kidneys, and we're going to determine any areas of stress. And in a moment, I'll get to how we do that exactly, but that is part of the testing. And so not only does nutrition response testing allow us to identify certain areas of stress in the body, but also what would work well to strengthen and rebalance those areas. So we test for natural remedies such as whole food supplements, herbs, oral stem cells, homeopathics. These are like pretty powerful formulas, so they're not like vitamins that you're going to necessarily find at the grocery store. when it comes to whole food supplements, for example, it's like eating really concentrated versions of food. So you're taking all these nutrients from food and you're squeezing it into this one little pill. And that is like more nutrition than you can get from like whatever you eat throughout the day. So, and that's how they really work in bridging nutritional gaps safely and faster than just, making changes to your foods. Okay, so when it comes to the common medical approach, there's typically 2 steps, right? So there's the diagnosis, which is identifying or naming the disease or syndrome, and then there's like the treatment part, whether that's like drugs or surgery or whatnot. So in nutrition response testing, we don't diagnose and we don't treat disease, but there are also 2 parts of our process. So one is the analysis part, and that is assessing the current status of your health. And so that's looking at, is the nervous system responding appropriately? Are the organs, happy, or are they stressed? And then from that, we can do additional testing and derive the second part, which is a personalized health improvement program. And so that's using designed clinical nutrition. So with that, we're going to make recommendations on certain supplements your body tests well that aid in addressing those stressors or those deficiencies. We also might make a recommendation for foods that you'll want to start to reduce or avoid, other foods that you'll want to start to add in that would be very healing. And then we also work in a holistic approach. So aside from the muscle testing, we're going to be working with you on practices to reduce stress, to get better sleep, to incorporate physical activity and movement if that's appropriate for you. So that's kind of, what we test for. And then I want to give you a little bit more information on how it works if you're curious. So if you were to come to the office, let's say you were a new client of mine and you had never been muscle tested before and you'd never heard of it, then I can understand if it could seem a little bit strange or even like hard to believe. But the thing is that it works really, really well. It's actually very precise and over 95% accurate. And one way that you can understand nutrition response testing and how it works better is if you consider how the body responds when it's in like a hypothermic state. So, because the same principles are at play when we do the muscle testing. So imagine it's like a cold winter day and you fall through a patch of ice in a lake. Your body is going to develop hypothermia. So what does your body do in response to that? It's going to start to reduce energy from your fingers, from your hands, from your arms, from your toes, and your legs in order to save the core of your body that's essential for your survival. So it's going to reduce energy from your limbs and your extremities in order to save your head and the core of your body. Okay? And so, I just want to make sure I got everything for you guys. Okay, so keep that in mind as I go through this next example. So let's say I'm using nutrition response testing to test the different organs of your body. So in practice, what this is going to look like is that, say, if you're doing it in person with me, I have you come to the office, right? And I have you hold your arm out straight like this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply a small amount of pressure to your arm, and I'm going to ask you to match my pressure. Okay, and then ideally what's going to happen is that you're going to be able to resist my pressure and we're going to match each other's pressure, and your arm is going to stay nice and locked in place, so it's going to stay where it is. Okay, so if I'm testing the different organs of the body, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to apply pressure to different acupressure points. Each acupressure point is associated with a specific organ. Like, for example, if I were to press right here, this is like the acupressure point for your stomach, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply with one hand pressure to your extended arm, and then with my other hand, I'm going to apply pressure to this acupressure point that's corresponding to your stomach. So what's happening there is when I apply pressure to this point, it's essentially adding stress to that area of the body. So your body is going to, or your nervous system is going to respond in one of two ways, right? So first, if your stomach is happy and healthy, and it can handle the additional stress that I put on it, your arm, when I press on this too, is going to stay just where it is. It's going to stay locked in place, and you're going to be able to resist my pressure. However, what can happen, so this is the second, scenario, is that if your stomach is already stressed and I'm adding more stress to it, okay, then I'm going to feel your arm essentially drop to some degree. It's going to unlock, okay? And so if you go to that example of hypothermia that I mentioned, energy is being reduced from the arm to handle this additional stress because this part of my body is more important. Okay, I hope that makes sense. And if you have any questions about that, then you can feel free to put that in the chat. Basically, what we're observing when the arm goes down is that this is an area of stress, okay? And so from there, we ask, okay, why is that stress happening? And then we go back to the 5 stressors, okay? Is the stomach stressed because of food sensitivities, metals, chemicals, scars, an immune challenge? Sometimes it just needs nutritional support. For the stomach, what would work well is maybe a digestive enzyme, potentially something to help you break down proteins or carbs. It really depends on the person. So that's how we go from identifying areas of stress, the cause of that stress, and then what would work to help rebalance it, okay? And based on what we're going to do is like scan the whole body, and say you have 5 organs that show up as stress. Say it's like your ascending colon, your stomach, your liver, your neck, and your kidney, left kidney. So there's a way that we can use nutrition response testing to figure out what is your priority in healing. So let's say, for example, the priority is the stomach. We give the stomach what it needs, and we see how that can affect the other organs that showed up as stress too. So what I'm trying to say is, like, even though 5 organs showed up as stress doesn't mean we have to figure out and find a resolution for all those stressed organs. You can kind of think of everything working together like a web, so all your organs working together as a web. Say you have one organ that's your priority organ that's really stressed. Imagine if that organ is just kind of like pulling on that web, and like now all these other organs are feeling that stress too. They're trying to overcompensate it, and now they're showing up in your testing as stressed. So that's why it's important for us to figure out what the priority is, give that organ the support that it needs. We can retest to see, okay, is it getting better? And then also, are these other organs that initially showed up as stressed, are they getting better too, or do they need additional support? So it's really great because even if, say, your stomach showed up as stress, I might try 5 different supplements on you, and your body is going to respond well to one, maybe more than the other. And in this way, we can really tailor a program that is personalized based on how your body tests and what it needs. And that's part of the second part of what I mentioned before, where the testing and the assessment is like the first part of the program. So that's the health assessment. And then the second part is the design clinical nutrition. So it's like your roadmap to healing using certain supplements and foods. We work with clients in a program, so that when I work with clients in a program, that's when they're most successful, because it's not like I'm just sending you home with supplements hoping for the best for you. In a program, I work with clients typically over 3 months. I'm meeting with them weekly, and we are using the muscle testing or nutrition response testing to see how they are doing on their program, if those organs that originally showed up as stressed are improving, if those stressors that originally showed up on their testing are still present, or if they're no longer presenting in themselves, if the nervous system is online. at that time, I'm also working with them to make changes to their foods. That's a huge part in their healing, reducing those inflammatory foods that their body is testing sensitive to, and kind of fine-tuning their protocols so they know which foods are going to work for them and which don't. A lot of times the clients that, get the best results are the ones that are really making changes to their foods. They're taking supplements as recommended. They're journaling their foods. They're meeting with me weekly. So they're doing all the things that, that have been recommended, really based on what their body is saying in their testing. And it's pretty incredible, like the turnaround that can happen when clients do all that, when they make the changes to their foods, when they take their supplements. I had a client today who came in, and she's like, it's not with everyone that that's the case, but she's quickly lost like 40 pounds. I have another client, who has struggled with fatigue, who got to go out all day, this past weekend. It makes me so happy to hear like their stories and how things are working for them. Acne, people have struggled with acne for years, or with hot flashes, having that subside, feeling more confident, more able to do things. So it really can apply to so many different scenarios. And if you are interested in learning more, you're welcome to let me know in the comments or send me a private message. We can set up like a free 15-minute consult. But here, this was your kind of little intro to nutrition response testing. About twice a year, we do like a one-day seminar in our office that Dr. Shannon hosts, and it's a way to get a little bit more information on how to do a rudimentary body scan. So you can always ask us, when the next date for that one is too. But thank you for listening. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. If you feel that this information would be interesting, or if someone is interested in natural healing, I just ask that you share that with them, in case that they want to look into it a little bit more. I'm going to be back here next week on the 30th, 5:30. Be talking about lifestyle and nutrition tips to promote better sleep, which is really, really important. We heal the most when we sleep. So just to give you a sneak peek, one thing that you can do is get into like a sleep routine, so that you're going to sleep to the same time every night, and trying to wake up in the morning at the same time so your body gets into a rhythm. But more to come if you tune in next week, and for whatever reason you don't make it, then you can always catch the replay. All right, thanks again. If you're one of my clients, I appreciate everything that you're doing. If you are not, then you are someone that I hope to connect with you very soon. All right, thanks so much, you guys. Have a great evening.